As they went marching on, Pumpkin sang and danced in the lead, and onions and carrots echoed his hearty songs. Presently, great black cats with shining yellow eyes stepped from behind the trees, and each cat was soon joined by its mistress, who was no other than a real witch in tall peaked hat and carrying a broomstick. The cabbages, who were a friendly lot, introduced Antone and Babette to these witches. The witches seemed pleased to meet the children. "They do not seem to be wicked witches, do they, Antone?" whispered Babette. "Oh, my dear," replied a witch who overheard, "we're not a bit wicked on Halloween, you know. Any other night I would probably do you a mischief. It is my nature, you know." She reached in her bag and handed Babette a peppermint. Babette, who is very fond of peppermint, ate it up with all haste. "You shouldn't do that, my dear," reproved the witch. It is seldom witches give peppermints, and when they do, the peppermints should be treasured. Here's another to keep for your pocket, and then you will never be without a peppermint when you want one." And she handed Babette another. Babette curtsied so prettily that the witch was charmed, and took her to ride on her broomstick. It was the gayest company one ever could imagine. As they marched along, every vegetable was singing a different Halloween song in a different key, and they all had voices that sang out of tune by nature. Babette, her little white nightdress flying in the breeze, was riding on the witch's broomstick and singing loudly as the rest. When they reached the dancing floor, it was lighted with millions and millions of glowworms, and an orchestra of 10,000 frogs hummed lively tunes in their throats. Pumpkin seized a handful of glowworms and put them in his head. Then, with his features all aglow, he cried out, "Ready for the dance!" Instead of taking partners, the vegetables just plunged onto the floor and began to jump about like mad. If they fell down, they did not jump at once, but rolled around the floor most good naturedly. They looked so like vegetables boiling about in a great soup kettle that Antone thought he should die of laughing. The witches took their brooms and began a sort of ladies' change figure while they chased their cats around the edges of the circle. Babette danced hardest of all. She knew no more of dancing than any carrot or parsnip, but she capered wildly, singing at the top of her voice. "Come and dance too, Antone," cried Babette as she went jumping past her brother, but he shook his head and laughed. "I am too big for such nonsense," said he. "I am 10, you know." "What nonsense!" cried a witch who was chasing her cat close by. "10 is exactly the right age to have fun." She raised her broom playfully, and before he knew it, she swept Antone into the middle of the dance. Pumpkin, his grinning features all aglow, went flying past and made Antone feel proud. Pumpkin was certainly the handsomest vegetable of the lot. As the night grew later, the frogs hummed faster, but hum as fast as they would, they could not keep up with the frisky vegetables. Beets and cauliflowers continued to bob up and down like mad. Cabbages from Minette's farm lost leaf after leaf. Carrots and onions grew battered from much tumbling about, and the merry din of song and laughter grew louder and louder. "Let's play blind man's buff," called Antone. "I'll be it, and show you how to play." He tied the handkerchief over his eyes, and the witches and their black cats went darting hither and thither. The vegetables were so pleased with this new game that they would play nothing else. They might have been playing it yet had not a cock crowed suddenly. "Good gracious me!" cried a witch. "The glowworms are all gone out. It's nearly morning. All who are going back to the vegetable patch had best be on their way." "Not I!" cried Pumpkin. "I have done with vegetable patches forevermore." "Not we!" exclaimed the cabbages. "We're going to turn savage and be wild cabbages for the rest of our days. We shan't go back to Mother Minette's pickle jars." Straightway every vegetable began to raise its voice and declare it would not go back to Antone's patch. "Oh, hush, all of you!" cried the witch. "Stay in the woods for the rest of your life if you like. It is nothing to me. But what of Antone and Babette? Who is to take them home?" "Well, ma'am," replied Pumpkin with a low bow, "we thought that you might be good enough to give them a ride home on your broomstick." "But, Pumpkin," cried Antone in dismay, "you promised to make it up to me if I let Potato go, and I think you should all return with me. I shall not have any vegetables if you all remain in the woods." "Never worry about that, Antone," replied Pumpkin with a lordly air. "Here's a purse for each of you, and if you take good care never to lose them, you will have plenty gold forever. Isn't that true, boys?" "True as we're not going back to the farm," cried the cabbages. "You had best hurry and plant yourself before it grows daylight, Pumpkin," they warned, and began to dig holes in the earth. Before Antone and Babette had mounted the witch's broomstick, all the carrots and turnips and even Pumpkin were all tucked up in their sandy beds. They called a faint goodbye as the children sailed off with the witch.